I work at an airport. 18 years. Baggage handler. I see thousands of suitcases every day. But one suitcase caught my attention. It had a small mark on it, barely noticeable. 2 weeks later, I saw the same mark again. Same suitcase, but different name. I got curious. Checked the records. That suitcase had come through 40 times in 6 months. Always different names. Always different places. But it was never opened. Never claimed. Just kept returning. I told my supervisor. We called security, opened the suitcase. There was something inside. An old device. We opened it. One file. Play, I said. Someone appeared on screen. Looking at the camera said something. Just one sentence. But that sentence changed everything. My name is Curtis Vaughn. I'm 47 years old. What started that day took me somewhere I never expected. And the truth I learned was something nobody was supposed to know. My name is Curtis Vaughn. I'm 47 years old. I've worked at JFK International Airport in New York for 18 years. Baggage handler, Terminal 4. It's not glamorous work. Most people never think about what happens to their luggage after they check it in. But there's a whole system. Conveyor belts, sorting areas, loading crews, scanner stations, security checkpoints. I started in 2007. Right out of high school, I'd worked construction for a few years. The pay was decent but irregular. When a position opened at JFK through a friend's recommendation, I took it. Steady income, benefits, union protection. The work is physical. Loading and unloading bags from planes, transferring them between terminals, sorting them by destination, operating machinery. It's repetitive, but I don't mind repetition. There's a rhythm to it. You learn the system, understand the flow, see patterns. Most bags follow predictable paths. Passenger checks in. Bag goes through security screening, gets sorted by flight. Loaded onto plane, arrives at destination. Passenger claims it. Simple. But things go wrong. Bags miss connections, get damaged, end up on wrong flights. Those become my problem. I work in the unclaimed baggage department. When bags don't get picked up, they come to us. We hold them for 30 days, try to contact the owners. Most get claimed eventually. Someone realizes their bag went to Miami instead of Denver. They file a report, ship it to them. Problem solved. The bags that don't get claimed after 30 days get auctioned. Contents inventoried, sold to liquidators. That's standard procedure. Over 18 years, I've seen thousands of unclaimed bags. Designer luggage, cheap duffels, hard shell cases, backpacks, every style imaginable. Most clothes, toiletries, electronics, books, nothing interesting. But occasionally, you find something strange. A suitcase full of seashells, a bag containing 50 identical wigs, a case packed with nothing but bubble wrap. People are weird. You stop being surprised. Then in March 2024, I noticed something unusual. A suitcase came through unclaimed. Black hard-shell Samsonite, medium size. Standard except for one detail. In the bottom right corner, someone had put a small sticker, not the airline tag, not a brand label, just a tiny circular sticker, red with a white star in the center about the size of a dime, barely noticeable unless you looked closely. I processed it like any other unclaimed bag, scanned the tag, logged it into the system, put it in storage. 30 days later, no one claimed it. It went to auction. 2 weeks after that, another black Samsonite came through. Unclaimed. I was processing it when I noticed something. Bottom right corner, same sticker, red circle, white star. I checked the tag. Different name, different flight origin. This one had come from Paris. The previous one had been from Tokyo. Coincidence? Maybe. Samsonite makes millions of these cases. 2 people could have the same sticker, but it felt odd. I logged it. Moved on. Over the next month, I saw the sticker 3 more times. Always on black Samsonite suitcases, always unclaimed. Always from different international origins. London, Dubai, Singapore, different passenger names each time. I started taking notes, created a simple spreadsheet at home. Date, flight number, origin city, passenger name, tag number. By May 2024, I had tracked 11 suitcases with a red star sticker, all unclaimed. All black Samsonite. All international flights. The passenger names were different. Joseph Chen, Maria Rodriguez, David Thompson, Anna Kowalski. No pattern in the names. different nationalities, different genders. But the flights followed a route: Tokyo to New York, New York to Paris, Paris to New York, New York to London, London to New York, New York to Dubai. It was circling. The suitcase, or suitcases, were traveling the world intentionally. Someone was checking this bag on international flights, letting it go unclaimed, letting it cycle through our system, then checking it again somewhere else. Why? In June, I mentioned it to my supervisor, Frank Delgado. He'd been at JFK for 25 years, seen everything. Frank, I've been noticing something weird. A suitcase keeps coming through. Same one, over and over. How do you know it's the same? Distinctive sticker. I've tracked it 11 times in 3 months. He frowned. That is weird. Could be smuggling something, using the bag to move contraband through airports without actually traveling. But why wouldn't they claim it? That's what I can't figure out. They're paying baggage fees, going through check-in, then abandoning it. Report it to security. Let them check it out. I filed a report with airport security. 2 days later, an officer named Ken Martinez came to find me. You're the one who reported the repeating suitcase? Yeah. Show me your records. I pulled out my spreadsheet, showed him the 11 entries, dates, flight numbers, origins. He studied it carefully. This is good work. Most people wouldn't notice this. I've been here 18 years. You see patterns? Martinez nodded. We'll flag the bag if it comes through again. Get it to screening. See what's inside. 3 weeks later, in early July, the suitcase appeared again. Flight from Sydney. Black Samsonite, red star sticker, unclaimed. I called Martinez immediately. He came down with another security officer. They pulled the bag, took it to a private screening room. I waited. An hour later, back. He looked confused. What was in it? Nothing illegal, just personal items, clothes, toiletries, a laptop, old one, from around 2007 or 2008. That's it? That's it. Did you try to turn on the laptop? Battery's dead. We don't have the right charger. It's an old Dell model. We'll hold the bag. Try to contact the registered passenger. See if they claim it. The registered name was Robert Chen, address in Hong Kong. Martinez's team tried to contact him. No response. Email bounced. Phone number disconnected. Address didn't exist. Fake identity. By August, the suitcase had come through 6 more. Martinez and his team intercepted it each time. Same content. Clothes that never changed. Same toiletries. Same dead laptop. They tried different chargers, finally got one that fit. Powered up the laptop. It was old. Windows Vista. Minimal software. They checked the files. Found one video file on the desktop titled simply, Play Me. Martinez called me down to the security office. Vaughn, you've been tracking this thing from the start. Want to see what's on the laptop? They had it set up in a conference room, the video file ready to play. Martinez, 2 other security officers, and me. Martinez clicked play. The screen showed a man, sitting in what looked like a home office, white walls, a bookshelf behind him. He appeared to be in his late 30s. Dark hair, glasses, casual button-down shirt. He looked directly at the camera, started speaking. If you're watching this, I'm gone. My name is Daniel Cross. Today is November 3rd, 2007. In approximately 4 months, I'm going to disappear. Everyone will think I left voluntarily. Maybe ran away. Maybe had a breakdown. But that's not what happened. I was murdered. He paused. Let the weight of that sink in. The room was completely silent. Daniel continued. I work as a financial analyst for Meridian Capital in Manhattan. 6 months ago, I discovered something. My firm is running a Ponzi scheme. Not small, massive. Hundreds of millions of dollars. Maybe over $1 billion. I have evidence, documents, transaction records, emails, everything needed to prove it. I've been copying files for months, storing them securely, planning to go to the SEC, to federal investigators. But 3 days ago, I realized someone knows. Someone at the firm knows I've been collecting evidence, been followed. My apartment was broken into, though nothing was taken. They're cleaning, making sure no traces remain, and I know what's coming next. They're going to kill me, make it look like something else. An accident, a suicide, a disappearance. I can't go to authorities yet. I don't have everything I need. If I report now, they'll destroy evidence, cover their tracks. The scheme will continue. More people will lose money. I need 2 more months until January 2008. Then I'll have enough to bring them down completely, but I don't think I'll live that long. So I'm creating this. Insurance. The video cut to a different angle. Daniel held up a USB drive. All my evidence is here. Names, accounts, transactions, offshore transfers, everything. I'm putting this laptop in a suitcase, and I'm sending it on a journey. The suitcase will travel the world through airport, through systems. It'll be unclaimed. Cycling, waiting. If I'm alive in February 2008, I'll claim it. I've set up a system, the bag will keep traveling. If I don't claim it by March 1st, 2008, that means I'm dead. And whoever finds this, please, take this evidence, go to the FBI, the SEC, the media. Expose Meridian Capital. Don't let them get away with it. Daniel's eyes were intense, desperate. People have lost their life savings, retirement funds, college savings. Hundreds of families ruined, and it's going to get worse, much worse, unless someone stops it. Please, finish what I started. The video ended. We sat in silence. Martinez was the first to speak. Check the date on that file. The other officer checked. File creation date, November 3rd, 2007. It's almost 17 years ago. Did Daniel Cross really disappear? Martinez was already typing on another computer, searching news archives. After a few minutes, he found something. Here. Daniel Cross, 38 years old, financial analyst, reported missing March 2008. Last seen leaving his apartment in Manhattan, March 17th, 2008. Never found. Case went cold. Family believed he'd had a mental breakdown. Left voluntarily. That's exactly what he predicted, I said. They made it look like he disappeared. We need to check if this Ponzi scheme was real, Martinez said. He searched for Meridian Capital. Found articles immediately. Meridian Capital exposed in massive fraud scheme, June 2008. Just 3 months after Daniel's disappearance. CEO Arnold Hastings arrested. Charged with orchestrating $1.2 billion Ponzi scheme. Holy shit, one of the officers said. Daniel was right. Keep reading, Martinez said, scrolling. Arnold Hastings convicted. Sentenced to 25 years federal prison, died in prison 2019. Meridian Capital dissolved. Investors recovered approximately 40% of losses through asset seizures. So the scheme was exposed anyway, I said. But maybe not everything. Martinez pulled up more articles. Here's something. Federal prosecutors believed there were additional conspirators. Several Meridian Capital executives were investigated but never charged. Insufficient evidence. If Daniel had evidence that could have implicated others, it died with him. We need to see what's on that USB drive, I said. Martinez shook his head. That's beyond our authority. This is a federal matter now. Possible murder, financial fraud. We need to contact the FBI. He made the call right there. FBI Special Agent Laura Hendricks arrived at JFK the next morning. She was in her mid-40s. Professional. Direct. Took the laptop and suitcase into custody immediately. Thank you for reporting this. We'll take it from here. What happens now? I asked. We'll analyze the evidence. Determine if there's an active case. The original Meridian Capital investigation is closed. But if there's evidence of additional crimes or conspirators, we may reopen. Can you tell us what you find? She hesitated. Normally, no. But you've been instrumental in preserving this evidence. I'll see what I can share. 2 weeks passed. I heard nothing. Kept working my shifts, processing bags. But my mind was on Daniel Cross, a man who'd predicted his own murder, who'd sent his evidence on a 17-year journey through airport systems. Finally, in late August, Agent Hendricks called. Asked me to come to the FBI field office in Manhattan. I took a day off, went in. She met me in a conference room. The laptop was there, along with several other FBI agents and a federal prosecutor. Mr. Vaughn, thank you for coming. We've spent 2 weeks analyzing Daniel Cross's evidence. What did you find? Everything he claimed. The USB drive contained comprehensive documentation of Meridian Capital's Ponzi scheme, but also more evidence implicating 4 other executives who were never charged. Transfers to offshore accounts that were never traced. Money that disappeared and was never recovered. How much money? The prosecutor spoke. Based on Daniel's records, at least $300 million was moved offshore. Never recovered, never returned to victims. The 4 executives he implicated are all still alive. Never faced charges because we didn't have Daniel's evidence, Hendricks said. The original investigation couldn't prove their involvement. But Daniel's records do. Emails showing they knew about the fraud, documents showing they helped move money, transaction records showing they profited personally. Can you prosecute them? It's complicated. The Ponzi scheme charges have statute of limitations issues, but money laundering doesn't. Fraud related to covering up the scheme doesn't. We believe we can build cases against at least 3 of the 4 executives. Who are they? Hendricks slid photos across the table. Peter Ashford, former CFO of Meridian Capital, currently CEO of a private equity firm in Connecticut, 62 years old. Margaret Liu, former VP of Operations, now financial consultant, lives in Miami, 59 years old. And Kevin Dorsey, former head of client relations, retired, lives in Arizona, 65 years old. What about the 4th? James Rucker. He died in 2015. Car accident, natural accident, or suspicious? Hendricks shrugged. Officially natural. But Daniel's records show Rucker was the most deeply involved. Helped orchestrate the offshore transfers. If he'd been charged back in 2008, he would have faced 30 years minimum. Convenient that he's dead. That's one perspective. Another is that Daniel's evidence would have saved him from what appears to have been legitimate legal earning in later life. Either way, he's not prosecutable. So what happens next? We're building cases against Ashford, Liu, and Dorsey. Should have indictments within 2 months. There's something else, the prosecutor said. Daniel Cross, his disappearance. We've reopened the investigation as a potential homicide. Based on what? His video, his prediction that he'd be killed, and something we found in his evidence files. A document dated March 10th, 2008, 1 week before he disappeared. It's an email from Arnold Hastings to Peter Ashford. Subject line, "The Analyst Problem." Hendricks pulled it up on the laptop screen. "Let me read it to you," Arnold writes. "Our friend in research has become a liability. He knows too much, been too curious. We need to handle this before it escalates. You know what I mean. Make it clean." Ashford responds, "Understood. We'll coordinate. Target date mid-March. Accident or disappearance?" Hastings replies, "Disappearance better, less investigation." "Jesus," I said. "That's a murder plot in writing. Exact language, which is why we're reopening the case. Daniel Cross didn't disappear voluntarily. He was murdered, likely by people acting on Ashford's orders. We're investigating. This is now a federal murder case, not just financial fraud. If we can prove Ashford ordered Daniel's killing, he'll face murder charges, not just money laundering. The stakes just got much higher." "Can I ask something?" I said. "Go ahead. Why did the suitcase keep traveling? Why that specific route?" Hendricks smiled slightly. That was clever on Daniel's part. He'd set up a system using multiple fake identities. Each identity would check the bag on a specific route, Tokyo to New York to Paris, and so on. The bag would go unclaimed, return to origin. Then another fake identity would check it on the next leg. It cycled automatically through a network of fake bookings he'd prepaid, using cryptocurrency. For 17 years, the cryptocurrency accounts were well-funded. He set aside enough for decades of baggage fees. The system was automated. As long as airlines existed and accepted the old booking codes, the bag would keep traveling. It's actually brilliant. A dead drop that never stayed in one place. Impossible to intercept unless someone noticed the pattern like you did. And if Daniel had survived, if he'd lived past March 2008, he would have claimed the bag at one of the stops, ended the cycle, taken the evidence to authorities himself, but he didn't survive. So the bag kept going, waiting for someone to find it. You found it. Over the next 3 months, the FBI built their cases. In November 2024, federal indictments were announced. Peter Ashford charged with money laundering, wire fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. Margaret Liu charged with money laundering and wire fraud. Kevin Dorsey charged with money laundering. All 3 arrested, held without bail. The media coverage was massive. 17-year-old evidence surfaces in traveling suitcase. Dead man's testimony from beyond the grave. FBI reopens Meridian Capital Ponzi scheme investigation. I was interviewed by news outlets. Airport worker cracks cold case. How baggage handlers' attention to detail exposed murder plot. The trial for Peter Ashford began in March 2025. I attended several days of testimony, watched as prosecutors presented Daniel's evidence, emails, transaction records. The smoking gun email about the analyst problem, Ashford's defense argued the email was taken out of context. That analyst problem referred to a different employee, not Daniel Cross. But prosecutors had more phone records showing Ashford made calls to known criminals in March 2008. Financial records showing he paid $75,000 in cash around the time of Daniel's disappearance to a man later convicted of murder for hire in an unrelated case. Witness testimony from a former Meridian employee who'd heard Ashford say, "We need to handle the analyst." In May 2025, the jury returned guilty verdicts on all counts: money laundering, wire fraud, conspiracy to commit murder. Ashford was sentenced to 40 years in federal prison, 62 years old. He'd die behind bars. Margaret Liu and Kevin Dorsey took plea deals, testified against Ashford in exchange for reduced sentences. Liu got 12 years. Dorsey got 8. They'd both serve time, face the consequences, not as severe as Ashford, but justice nonetheless. The recovered offshore funds, approximately $280 million, were seized, distributed to original Meridian Capital victims. Families who'd lost everything in 2008 received substantial recoveries, not full restitution, but significant, life-changing for many. One of those families was Daniel Cross's parents. His father had died in 2015, but his mother, Ellen Cross, was still alive, 74 years old, living in New Jersey. I reached out to her through the FB. I asked if she'd be willing to meet. She said yes. We met at a cafe in Montclair. She was small, white hair, kind face, but you could see the years of grief had marked her. "Mr. Vaughn," she said, shaking my hand. "Thank you for agreeing to meet. I should be thanking you. You found my son's evidence. You made sure it reached the right people. I didn't do much, just noticed a pattern. You did everything." Daniel spent months preparing that evidence, planning that system. He knew he was going to die, and he made sure that even in death, he'd complete his mission. You honored that. I don't know what to say. Ellen's eyes filled with tears. For 17 years, I thought my son had abandoned us, left without explanation. I thought he'd had a breakdown, that we'd failed him somehow. The guilt was unbearable. But now I know he didn't leave. He was murdered, trying to do the right thing. And his evidence saved hundreds of families. He was a hero. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you. Ellen pulled out a photo, showed it to me. Daniel at maybe 25, smiling, holding a briefcase, his first day at Meridian. So proud, so optimistic. He wanted to help people, build wealth for families, retirements, college funds. When he discovered the fraud, it devastated him, but he didn't ignore it. He acted, even knowing the cost. That's courage. Yes, it is. We sat for a while, talking about Daniel, his life, his work, his character. Before I left, Ellen gave me something, a small photo of Daniel. On the back she'd written, "Thank you for bringing my son home, even if just his truth." I keep that photo on my desk at home, a reminder of what happened, of a man who sacrificed everything to expose corruption, of evidence that traveled the world for 17 years waiting to be found, and of the importance of paying attention, of noticing patterns, of not ignoring things that seem off, because sometimes those small details matter more than you can imagine. 3 months after Ashford's conviction, Agent Hendricks called me again. "Can you come to the field office? There's something we need to discuss." I went in that afternoon. She was waiting with another agent, someone I hadn't met before. "This is Agent Frank Morrison. He's been working on something related to Daniel Cross's evidence." Morrison was older, maybe late 50s, former. "Mr. Vaughn, thank you for coming. We've been continuing our investigation into Meridian Capital, going deeper into Daniel's file, and we found something disturbing." "What?" "Daniel's evidence didn't just document the Ponzi scheme. There were other files encrypted, hidden. We finally cracked them last week. They contain evidence of something else entirely." "What kind of something else?" "A broader conspiracy. Meridian Capital wasn't acting alone. They were part of a network. Multiple investment firms running coordinated schemes, sharing client information, moving money between each other to cover losses, creating the appearance of returns." Morrison pulled up files on a computer. Daniel discovered this in his last weeks. He was investigating deep, found connections between Meridian and 5 other firms, all running similar frauds, all connected to the same offshore banks. How much money are we talking about? Conservatively? $3 billion. Maybe more. Across 6 firms. Over a decade. Holy shit, these firms are still operating. Their schemes are still active. Because Daniel died before he could expose. And the FBI didn't find this evidence in 2008 because it was locked in his laptop, which was circling the globe in a suitcase. Exactly. Hendricks leaned forward. We need to move carefully. These are powerful firms, connected people. If we spook them, evidence disappears. Witnesses vanish. We learned that the hard way in 2008. What do you need from me? Honestly, nothing. You've done your part. We wanted you to know because you're the one who started this. Without you noticing that suitcase, none of this would have come to light. This was courtesy, letting you know what you helped expose. Can I ask about the firms? The names? Morrison hesitated, then nodded. Normally I wouldn't share, but you've earned some trust. Pendleton Wealth Management. Boston. Approximately $600 million in fraudulent activity. Kensington Capital Chicago. $400 million. Riverside Investment Group. San Francisco. $500 million. Atlas Financial Partners. Dallas. $350 million. Summit Advisory Services. Philadelphia. $400 million. And Meridian Capital was New York. $1.2 billion. Total. $3.45 billion. Jesus. And they're all still operating? Modified. Some changed names. New leadership. But the core infrastructure remains. We believe the schemes are just more sophisticated now. When will you move on them? Soon. We're coordinating with SEC, financial crimes units across multiple cities. Probably simultaneous raids within 60 days. It'll be big. National news, big. Over the next 2 months, I watched the investigation unfold from the outside. Couldn't discuss it with anyone classified. Then in July 2025, it happened. Coordinated FBI raids across 6 cities, all on the same morning. Boston, Chicago, San Francisco, Dallas, Philadelphia, New York. Search warrants executed at all 6 firms. Computers seized. Documents secured. Arrests made. The news coverage was on massive financial fraud network exposed. Billions stolen from investors. FBI credits evidence from 2007. Dead analysts, 17-year-old files, bring down conspiracy, 17 people were arrested. CEOs, CFOs, compliance officers, portfolio managers, all charged with wire fraud, money laundering, securities fraud. The trials took over a year. Multiple defendants, multiple jurisdictions, complex financial crimes. But Daniel's evidence was compelling, detailed, precise. One by one, convictions came. 14 of 17 defendants found guilty. Sentences ranging from 8 years to 35 years. The 3 acquittals were lower-level employees who successfully argued they didn't know about the frauds. Courts ordered restitution, asset seizures, offshore accounts frozen, approximately $2.1 billion recovered. Not everything, but substantial. Thousands of victims received compensation, retirement accounts restored, college funds rebuilt. Not completely, but enough to matter. In September 2026, Agent Hendricks invited me to a ceremony, FBI Director's Award for Public, recognizing civilians who assist in significant federal cases. The ceremony was in Washington, D.C. FBI headquarters. They flew me out, put me in a hotel. The award was presented in a formal ceremony. FBI director spoke, praised my attention to detail, diligence, commitment to following through. Curtis Vaughn's recognition of an unusual pattern led to one of the largest financial fraud investigations in FBI history. 17-year-old evidence that had quite literally traveled the world waiting to be found. Because of his vigilance, dozens of criminals have been brought to justice, billions of dollars recovered, and the truth about Daniel Cross's murder has finally been revealed. They gave me a plaque, a medal, handshakes from officials whose names I recognized from news. It was surreal. After the ceremony, Ellen Cross approached me. She'd been invited? I didn't know she'd be there. She hugged me. Thank you for everything. You've given Daniel justice. You've given so many families justice. I couldn't have done it without him. Without his courage in 2007, he did the hard part. We just had to be paying attention. She smiled through tears. He'd be proud that you noticed that you cared enough to follow through. Most people wouldn't have. That night, back at my hotel, I thought about the whole journey. A suitcase with a red star, circling the globe for 17 years, carrying evidence, waiting. Daniel Cross had created an ingenious system. Dead drop in motion, impossible to intercept without patience and observation. And it had worked, not the way he'd hoped. He didn't survive to expose the fraud himself. But his evidence had. His voice from 2007 speaking in 2024, bringing down the criminals who'd killed him, exposing conspiracies that had run for decades, recovering billions of dollars, giving thousands of families justice, all because he'd been brave enough to act, smart enough to create contingency, and because 18 years later, a baggage handler in New York had been paying attention. It's been almost 2 years since I first noticed that suitcase. My life hasn't changed much externally. Same job, same apartment, same routine. But internally, everything's different. I understand now that small actions matter. Paying attention matters. Not ignoring things that seem off matters. Daniel Cross risked everything to expose corruption, created an elaborate system to ensure his evidence survived. But it only mattered because someone noticed, someone cared enough to report it, someone followed through. I think about that a lot. How many other patterns are there? How many other anomalies that people see but ignore? How many injustices that could be corrected if someone just paid attention? I'm more aware now, more deliberate. At work, I watch for patterns, not obsessively, just attentively. Most of what I see is normal. But occasionally, something's off. A bag that seems wrong. A passenger acting strangely, and I report it. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes it leads somewhere. Last month, I noticed a suitcase that had been circling through our system for weeks. Different than Daniel's case. This one was being claimed, but always at the last minute, right before it would be sent to auction. I flagged it for security. They investigated. Turned out to be a drug trafficking operation, using the bag to move product through airports without actually traveling with it. Small operation, but still significant. My attention helped stop it. People ask me sometimes if I regret getting involved, if dealing with the FBI and trials and media attention was worth it. The answer is always yes, because of what was accomplished. Justice for Daniel Cross, justice for thousands of fraud victims, criminals in prison who might otherwise have continued stealing. And beyond the specifics, something broader, proof that ordinary people can make extraordinary differences. I'm not a detective, not an investigator. I'm a baggage handler. I load suitcases onto planes, but I noticed something wrong, and I didn't ignore it. That's all it took. Ellen Cross and I stay in touch email occasionally. She sends me updates about the recovered funds, how families are rebuilding, how Daniel's evidence continues to matter. Last month, she told me she'd established a scholarship, the Daniel Cross Memorial Scholarship, for students studying finance or accounting who demonstrate integrity and commitment to ethical practices. The scholarship is funded by a portion of the recovered money from the fraud cases. Daniel's legacy is education, teaching the next generation to do what he did, stand up against corruption, even when it's dangerous. She asked me to serve on the scholarship selection committee, help review applications, choose recipients. I said, the suitcase itself is in FBI custody, evidence in ongoing cases. But Agent Hendricks told me that once all legal proceedings are complete, it'll be donated to a museum. The Smithsonian has expressed interest. An artifact of an extraordinary story. The laptop, Daniel's video, the USB drive with evidence. All preserved. Future generations will see what Daniel created, understand his courage, learn from his sacrifice. Sometimes late at night, I think about that suitcase's journey, 17 years. Hundreds of flights, dozens of countries, Tokyo, Paris, London, Dubai, Singapore, Sydney, around and around, waiting. I imagine Daniel in November 2007 recording that video, knowing he had months to live at most, setting up the automated system, prepaying the flights, creating the fake identities, all while continuing his normal work, pretending everything was fine, acting like he didn't know death was coming. That's courage I can't fully comprehend. I also think about the people who handled that suitcase before me. How many baggage handlers in how many airports processed it, scanned it, moved it, stored it? How many security officers might have opened it over the years, seen the laptop, Closed it back up, moved on. I wasn't the first person to touch that suitcase. I was just the first person who noticed it was repeating, the first person who cared enough to investigate. That makes me wonder, how many other Daniels are there? How many other pieces of evidence waiting to be found? How many patterns waiting for someone to notice? I don't know the answers, but I know this: I'll keep watching, keep paying attention, keep noticing what doesn't fit, because that's what made the difference. Not special skills, not insider knowledge, just attentiveness, caring, following through. Those are things anyone can do. At work, I've trained newer baggage handlers to watch for patterns, anomalies, things that repeat in ways they shouldn't. Most of what we see is normal, but when something's off, we report it. We follow protocols. We pay attention. 2 of them have already caught things. One noticed suspicious labeling on multiple packages, reported it. Turned out to be counterfeit goods smuggling operation. Another noticed a passenger who checked bags on 3 flights in 1 week, never boarding the planes. Red flag for potential bomb threat. Security investigated. It was actually innocent, a travel agency employee checking luggage for clients as a service. But it could have been something dangerous. Better to report and be wrong than to ignore and be right. That's the lesson from Daniel's suitcase. Vigilance matters. Sometimes what seems like nothing is actually everything. Last week marked exactly 2 years since I first noticed the red star sticker. I went to visit Daniel's grave. Ellen had told me where he's buried: cemetery in New Jersey, near his family. His headstone is simple: Daniel Cross, 1969 to 2008. Truth prevails. Ellen had that added after the trials, after justice was served. Truth prevails, because he made sure it would. I stood there for a while, thinking about a man I never met, who died before I even started working at JFK, but whose courage changed my life, changed thousands of lives. Daniel, wherever you are, I hope you know, your evidence reached the right people. Your plan worked. It took 17 years, but justice came. The criminals are in prison. The victims got compensation. Your name is cleared. Your family knows the truth. You didn't disappear. You were murdered while trying to do the right thing, and you succeeded. Even in death, you succeeded. I left a red star sticker on his headstone, small circular sticker, just like the one on the suitcase. A marker, a memorial, so anyone who visits will wonder, will ask, will learn the story. As I walked back to my car, I felt at peace. Not because everything's resolved. There are still unanswered questions, still mysteries, still injustices, but because one man's courage had echoed across 17 years. And somehow, improbably, I'd been there to hear it. That's enough. That's more than enough. I drive back to New York, back to JFK, back to my job loading and unloading suitcases. But now I know every bag has a story. Most are simple. Some are extraordinary. And all it takes is someone paying attention, someone caring, someone willing to follow a pattern wherever it leads, even if it takes 17 years, even if it circles the globe, even if it seems impossible. Truth finds a way. Justice finds a path. You just have to be watching when it arrives.